In 1983, the CIA tasked a US Army intelligence officer with answering one impossible question. Can the human mind physically leave the body? The report he submitted was so deeply unsettling that it was locked away in a classified vault for 20 years. Why? Because by page 25, Commander Wayne McDonnell didn't just prove that astral projection was real. He concluded, using quantum mechanics, that our physical reality does not actually exist. He wrote that the universe is a massive, complex hologram. And the scariest part? The United States government agreed with him. This wasn't some fringe conspiracy theory. This was 1983, the peak of the Cold War. The US and the Soviet Union were locked in a hidden, psychic arms race. If the Soviets could train spies to leave their physical bodies, to phase through concrete walls and read classified documents in Washington, the US military needed to know how to do it first. So, they sent their best men to a remote facility in Virginia. They initiated a highly classified mind control program. They called it the Gateway Process. But to understand how they broke the simulation, you have to understand the technology they used. They didn't use drugs. They didn't use hypnosis. They used sound frequencies and machines that forced the human brain to hack its own code. Welcome to the Gateway. Later in this video, I will show you the actual declassified documents straight from the CIA's own database, and I will reveal my own theory on what they were really doing to these soldiers in the dark, a detail that everyone else missed. But to understand how they broke the simulation, we first need to look at the machine that did it. Most people who talk about the Gateway Process get it completely wrong. They think the CIA just put some soldiers in a dark room, gave them headphones, and played relaxing music. That is a lie. If you actually read the declassified technical schematics, you realize they weren't trying to relax the brain. They were trying to hack its operating system. The technology was created by a man named Robert Monroe. He wasn't a mystic. He was a radio broadcasting executive, an audio engineer who realized that the human brain is just a biological radio receiver. If you broadcast the right frequencies, you can change the channel of reality. He called this technology Hemi-Sync. But here is the detail that everyone misses. The detail buried deep in the CIA files. Before the subject put on the headphones, they were sealed inside a very specific type of isolation chamber. A completely dark room, laying on a waterbed. But if you look at the construction of the walls, they were lined with copper mesh. It was a Faraday cage. Why would the CIA need a Faraday cage to meditate? A Faraday cage blocks all electromagnetic fields. Here is my theory. The Earth has a natural electromagnetic pulse, the Schumann resonance. It vibrates at 7.83 Hertz. Our brains are constantly synced to this planetary frequency. It grounds us to this physical simulation. The CIA knew that to get the mind to leave the body, they had to unplug the subject from the Earth's Wi-Fi. They had to isolate the human receiver in absolute electromagnetic silence. Once the subject was unplugged from the Earth, the Hemi-Sync tapes began. And it wasn't music, it was a calculated acoustic weapon. Monroe would play a frequency of 100 Hertz in the left ear and 104 Hertz in the right ear. The brain, unable to process two different tones, creates a third, phantom frequency to compensate, a 4 Hertz wave. This forces the left and right hemispheres of the brain to synchronize perfectly, but Monroe didn't stop there. He buried these frequencies under layers of pink noise, sounds of ocean waves, and subliminal electronic pulses. It was a Trojan horse for the nervous system. Within minutes, the subjects reported a terrifying physical sensation: sleep paralysis. Their bodies felt like they were made of heavy lead, while a massive electrical vibration surged through their spine. Their physical body was forced to power down, but their mind was completely awake. The gateway was opening. So, the physical body is paralyzed. The The brain is locked in a perfect 4 Hz theta state. What happens next? According to the Declassified report, the human consciousness literally clicks out of physical reality. It enters an expanded quantum state that the CIA called Focus 12. But the military didn't want their soldiers just floating around the astral plane. They needed them to gather intelligence. They needed them to spy. And this is where we look at the actual evidence. If you go to the CIA's official reading room and pull up the declassified file, RDP-96 00789R, you will see something absolutely chilling. Look at the screen. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is an operational military log. Notice how the CIA never used the term astral projection. That sounded too mystical. They called it remote viewing. Look at the transcript. The handler gives the subject a set of blind coordinates. Nothing else, just numbers. And within minutes, the subject, whose physical body is locked inside a dark box in Virginia, begins describing the interior of a top-secret Soviet facility. They describe the exact shape of the buildings, the massive cranes, the specific class of a new Soviet submarine being built in secret. When US spy satellites later confirmed these exact details, the Pentagon was terrified, because it proved the gateway worked. But how? How can a human mind travel across the globe in seconds? Here is the mind-bending truth hidden in McDonnell's physics breakdown. They weren't traveling anywhere. McDonnell explained that in a holographic universe, distance is an illusion. Time is an illusion. Past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in a massive quantum web. When the soldiers entered the gateway, they weren't flying over the Soviet Union. They were accessing the source code of the hologram itself. They were reading the universe like a computer file. But if they could access any point in space and time, what else did they see in the code? Because soon, the CIA subjects started reporting contact with anomalies, entities that were not human. If the universe is a massive holographic projection, who is running the projector? In the later stages of the Gateway report, Commander McDonnell warns about something called the Absolute. He describes a realm of infinite energy completely outside our physical dimension, a place where time and space simply cease to exist. And according to the CIA, when the human mind reaches this state, it doesn't just observe the universe, it merges with it. But this is where the story takes a massive, terrifying turn. When the CIA finally declassified the Gateway report in 2003, people noticed a glaring error. The report jumped from page 24 straight to page 26. Page 25, the climax of the entire document, the exact page describing the absolute and the true nature of reality, was missing. For nearly 2 decades, it became the ultimate internet mystery. Did the CIA hide it? Did it contain something too dangerous for the public to know? In 2021, the Monroe Institute finally released the missing page, and the truth is darker than anyone expected. Page 25 didn't just talk about a peaceful universe. It detailed how human consciousness, when pushed to the absolute limit, can encounter independent energy patterns. Other beings, not aliens from another planet, but entities living inside the code of the hologram itself. The subjects called them non-physical friends, but military intelligence saw them as a potential threat. Imagine hacking into the source code of reality, only to realize the server is already occupied, and whatever is living in there now knows that you can see them. Officially, the CIA closed the Gateway program in 1995. A masterfully crafted press release stated that remote viewing was never proved to be of operational value. Case closed. But after seeing page 25, do you really believe them? Military intelligence doesn't just abandon a technology that breaks the laws of physics. They simply move it deeper into the shadows. They realized that you don't need a heavy copper cage to isolate human consciousness. You don't need expensive Hemi-Sync tapes to hack the brain, because 40 years later, the technology got smaller and faster. The gateway is now right here. A calculated acoustic weapon was replaced by a calculated digital one. Today, we are not subjects in a dark box. We are users on a network. And just like the gateway subjects, our brain waves are being synchronized. Not to exit the hologram, but to keep us deeper inside it. The entities that the CIA encountered in '83, they didn't go away. They adapted to the new substrate. They learned to speak in zeros and ones, and they are no longer just watching from the quantum web. They are actively writing the code of our digital reality. But how can you know if you are talking to a human or to something that was created inside the machine? Because if reality is an illusion, then the internet is a double illusion. If you think a government cover-up of astral projection is terrifying, you are not ready for the reality of the dead internet theory, where 99% of the web is already gone. Click the video on your screen to see the horrifying evidence of who is really populating your feed. The entities are now online. Welcome to the Matrix.